meeting. We are still adapting to virtual, and some folks are used to it, some folks are not at this point. So everybody that is not a panelist, and you would know if you were a panelist, your videos are off and you're automatically muted. Chat box is open if you'd like to say anything. More than welcome to engage that way, but you can also use the raise hand feature down at the bottom of your Zoom screen there, and then one of the co-hosts can call on you and give you the permission to unmute yourself. Video will be recorded. If you have any questions, feel free to let us know. And with that, I'll go ahead and turn it over to CPO 6 Chair, Becky Morinishi.
Great, thank you, Marcus. Thank you everyone for being here tonight. If you are attending for the first time tonight, thank you so much. We are happy to be here representing our community, and we love to hear your voices, and you're always welcome to send us feedback at cpo6leaders@gmail.com. If you want to know about anything particular going on in the community, please feel free to send us an email. We are going to start off tonight with some updates. So, Sheriff's Office, you ready?
Yes, hi, I'm Cody Harris. I'm your Education Outreach Specialist for the Washington County Sheriff's Office, and Deputy Orozco is here with us too. So I'll let him give you guys the safety brief. The main thing I just wanted to make sure, Becky, I'm going to be sending you guys out a list. We have a menu of some fall presentations, Sheriff's Office update, some good 20-minute, interactive conversations. You can update on jail and how the jail is processing through COVID. We also have a fraud and scams for elder adults, internet safety for youth, along many others that we have, but also just talking about 9 p.m. and neighborhood watch, and really working with communities to work together on really trying to avoid those crimes of opportunity. So take it away, Deputy.
Can you guys hear me? Okay, perfect. One of the biggest things, and I know that this is CPO 6 specifically, but one of the things that we've been seeing in the county a lot right now is fentanyl overdoses. And one of the biggest things that we need to start communicating with, younger kids and family members that go to parties, and they'll just randomly take one pill here and there. It literally is taking one pill to kill kids at this point in time. We had 2 what is called Len bias cases just this week, which is when someone passes away or has a serious physical injury from drug overdoses. And we are seeing an uptick of that. We've been seeing an uptick of that, and it is a concern. And we want to make sure that we get the word out as much as possible to everyone about these cases, and about the fact that it literally takes one pill, because they're pressed. They're not made in a pharmacy or anything like that. They're just pressed by individuals. You don't know exactly how much amount of the fentanyl drug is in the pill, and it literally starting to kill people with just one pill. So I want to get the word out there for that. I know that's not specific to CPO 6, but it's specific to the county and literally to the state. So I wanted to get the word out on that. As well, the other thing that I wanted to talk about was, Cody, I don't know if we can get this link on there somewhere, but there is an ESPD survey, community survey, that we want as many people to participate in, to give us feedback and to how best we can provide services to the county. So I don't know, again, Cody, I hope you can put the link in there so that people can take that survey. I know Cody has a map of the districts, and it shows crimes that, the regular crimes that we have that are, burglaries, thefts, fraud calls, and that's always a concern. But I wanted to go a little bit more higher overview in terms of the drugs, and getting people to start talking about that, start talking with family members and kids, specifically, teenage kids, early 20s, because we're seeing a lot of that. So, and if you guys have any questions about it, please feel free to ask, or if you guys want to know more about it, you can always reach out and we can present something specifically to that, because I know that our West Side Interagency Narcotics team is dealing with those Len bias cases a lot now.
There is a question in the chat, and I also wanted to, Cody, share the stuff you're putting in the chat to all panelists and attendees. There was a question in the chat asking if the fentanyl pills are called something else on the street.
Yeah, I mean, they're called, they call them blueies. They call them like, it just depends, to be honest with you, because they're not specific, like one specific pill. They're just pressed and they're different sizes, they're different colors, they're different everything. So there's no one name for the fentanyl pills. It just could be anything. Like a lot of it is just, they'll call it, it'll be like an ecstasy pill, but it'll be laced with fentanyl. So you just don't know, which is kind of the scary part of it. Like you could be thinking you're taking ecstasy or something that maybe you've tried before, you've done before, and it's okay. And you handle it okay, but maybe they pressed it with fentanyl and now it's no longer okay.
And if you guys have further questions, let me know. I'm putting some links in the chat. And
Oh, we lost you. You got muted halfway through that.
we're here for you guys. Any questions, just reach out.
Great, thank you guys for that update. Oh, somebody's asking, what's the source of the fentanyl?
So unfortunately, it's just, it is. So fentanyl is actually in prescribed drugs. So people will buy it and then they'll crush it and then they'll in order to sell it and use more of it, they'll do that. But I don't know exactly. And that's why the presentation, it's greater. It's better when it comes from the West Side Interagency Narcotics, because they have the specifics of which pills carry the fentanyl and how exactly it's coming in. I just, on my level, I'm just seeing it as, hey, these drugs are already pressed with fentanyl. And I mean, even for us, like when we go to anything drug related and we start seeing powders and that kind of stuff, we don't even open it, because someone who is not, who has no drugs in their system or hasn't had anything, even a little bit can do a lot of damage. So we don't even open it. If we suspect there's fentanyl at all, we'll just put it in a plastic bag and send it to the lab to be tested.
And I just added on there too, the DEA just did a major press release on this. And so, I mean, the slogan we're spreading is the one pill can kill. Because unless you know exactly what pharmacy that pill walked out of, whether you think it's a Xanax or something else, it could be laced. And so this is where it can be so scary and confusing, because somebody thinks they're taking something and it's something different. But that DOJ or the DEA.gov one that just came out has a lot of more detailed information. But also too, it's just continuing that conversation, like Deputy said. Other than that, I would also just like to toss in there our usual conversation about 9 p.m. routine. The main things we're seeing are those crimes of opportunity. So as we head towards holiday shopping seasons, making sure that you're taking things out of your car, locking up, turning lights on now that days are longer too. So thanks so much.
Thank you. Very sad to hear about the fentanyl, but thank you for addressing that. I'm gonna put the DEA website up on our Facebook page as well. That's really important info.
Perfect.
Perfect.
All
And follow
right.
our social media on that too, because we have been releasing information as it comes out and had a whole series. So feel free to check those out as well.
Great, thanks. Tim from THPRD, you ready to go?
Sure, yes, I can. Hello, everyone. I'm Tim Bonin, Senior Park Planner in Design Development for THPRD. The announcements I have for October is THPRD is hiring. We have lots of part-time and seasonal opportunities available to support fall programming, so you can visit our website to learn more. There was a national award for public involvement. THPRD was honored with 2 national awards by the International Association for Public Participation USA chapter. The district's visioning process work was recognized as a public improvement project of the year and also won the Core Values Award for Respect for Diversity, Inclusion, and Culture. THPRD will now be representing the United States at an international competition later this month. Talking Walls, THPRD is collaborating with Color Outside the Lines and Five Oaks Museum and has invited Latinx artists and youth to participate in a series of murals at Tualatin Hills Aquatic Center celebrating Latino, Latina, and Latinx cultures. The murals will be painted on Saturday, October 23rd. The murals are supported by generous grants from the Reser Family Foundation and the Oregon Cultural Trust. We have some Halloween activities for this month. Staff are working with the City of Beaverton, Experience Theater Project, and Dragon Theater on 2 Halloween events. One is a Halloween Silly Walk and Dance Party at Conestoga Recreation Aquatic Center, and a Halloween Spooky Trail Walk at Fir Grove Park. And I'll give you the details of those in just a minute. We also have basketball leagues, 5th grade and middle school and high school and adult basketball leagues are open for registration at the Aquatic Center on starting October 4th. The leagues are very popular, so if you're interested, please check out the different league availabilities. As I mentioned last month, the Stir Center is now open. We opened it back up in September, and we have a campaign going on right now called Senior Giving. The Tualatin Hills Park Foundation is hosting a senior giving campaign. Community members are asked to consider making a donation for a monthly pass to help seniors enjoy the Stir Center offerings. If you're interested in making a donation, you can visit the foundation's website at www.thpf.org. And if you're looking for childcare, THPRD is actively working on expanding affordable childcare. We have limited space available right now at Garden Home Rec Center. We're also working on compiling waiting lists for other locations and working with the city, with the Beaverton School District and other community partners on additional childcare options. As far as events for this month, on Wednesday, the 13th, we have our virtual regular meeting of the Board of Directors at 7 p.m. And then on Saturday, the 16th, we have the Halloween Silly Walk and Dance Party at Conestoga Rec and Aquatic Center at 4 p.m. Little ones can trick or treat throughout the parking lot, enjoy a DJ dance party and character meet and greets. Costumes are encouraged and masks are required. It is free and there's no pre-registration needed. Then on Wednesday, the 20th, we have our virtual Joint Advisory Committee meeting at 6 p.m. And then, as I mentioned, the Talking Walls, that will be at the HMT Recreation Complex on Saturday, the 23rd. And again, there'll be 7 amazing Latinx artists alongside with THPRD, Color Outside the Lines, and Five Oaks Museum for the murals and art and conversation. The theme of this will be belonging. Please RSVP for this so we can know how many people will be attending. And then finally, we have on the same day, on Saturday the 23rd, we have the Halloween Spooky Trail Walk at Fir Grove Park, and that is at 4 p.m. And of course, encourage kids to wear a costume and wear a mask, and no registration is required. And as always, we have one-day volunteer opportunities that you can sign up for every month. You can volunteer for community garden work parties, nature area restoration projects, as well as community and cultural celebrations. And those are the events I have. Announcements, is there anything for me? Let's look at the chat.
Any questions from anyone? Don't see any yet.
Don't see any yet. Well, I will be
Sounds like
here if
some-
any pop up.
Yeah, sounds like some fun events coming up.
The holiday season is starting, so
Yeah.
brace yourself.
I think we all need that a little bit right
Certainly
now.
do.
How is the construction project going into the Beaverton Nature Center Park?
Oh, I think they're about to wrap that up for the winter. So that is Clean Water Service is running a new storm line through the park. And there was it's in 2 phases. So I think they're just about to finish up the first phase. right now. Again, wet weather coming. We had to shut down a few sections of the trail, and they have some temporary crossings. So that one is about to wrap up for the winter, and then they'll start back up in the spring. And so we'll have, at the end, we'll have some new boardwalks, which would be nice. We had some older boardwalks there that were in need of repair. And so with this new trunk line coming through the park, we will have some brand new boardwalks that are better built, more sturdy, and easier to walk on than some of the older ones that were starting to get a little bit slippery. So
Great. We have another question. Any news on the future Miller Hill Park?
that is an interesting question. Yes, we are going to start that one up soon. That actually came up this past week. So, and we just started talking about it. It was a park that we had been put on hold, and we're looking at, it'll be one of my projects. So we're going to start working on the RFP, the request for proposals, toward the end of the year and get those out. So look at hiring consultant the first of the year, and this project will, it's about a 3-year process. So we'll get the consultant on board, and we'll go through what we call the concept planning, public engagement, and that takes about 9 months, and then present the concept to the public, and then work through that, and then from there go on into land use and construction drawings and those things. So it takes a couple of years to go through that process. We're just finishing up now. We call Baker Loop Neighborhood Park, which is on Lombard, just south of Allen. I know it's outside the CPO, but that one we just went through about a 9-month process with the concept plan for that. So that'll be a 2-acre park in that neighborhood, a great neighborhood in the Bose community to have that one. And again, the Miller Hill Road will be another nice one. It's about a 2-acre site, relatively flat. So we look forward to starting that one as well.
Great. Yeah, I think we had a
when will
follow-up.
Harmon reopen? I see that one. I don't know. I have not heard anything else on opening up Harmon yet. We're actually going to be doing some work in the parking lot at Harmon. It's just started to deteriorate in some areas. So I know we're working on that right now, putting together a design and having that work done next month, next couple months. But we do have the Beaverton Swim Center open, and the Aquatic Center are open right now. And I think Raleigh will stay open. It's an outdoor pool, but they'll heat it.
Great. And Douglas was asking, I think, about the Nature Center Park. Will the restrictions be lifted temporarily when the construction is shut down for the season?
If you want to leave me your email, I can find out more about it, or you can email me. I can put my email in here, and why don't I just add my email in here, Steve, and I can shoot me an email, and then I will put you in line with Greg Krieger. He's a project manager for that, and he can let you know what trails are going to stay closed and what will reopen. I know there's one segment they're going to reopen temporarily, so I'll add my email in there.
Great. And yeah, so Douglas added his email. Just if you scroll up, Tim, in our thing, Doug's got his email up there. So
okay,
send that on to him. Irene is asking, where will Miller Hill Park be?
Oh, it is on.
Hi, Cody.
Gosh, it's just up the road from what's the new school? I'm sorry, I got to look at a map. It's next to Jenkins Estate. Not far from Jenkins Estate. I will.
Hazeldale.
Hazeldale, yes. So Hazeldale's on the north side, and then there's what's the new elementary school in that area? I'll look that up. I'll put that information in here for you. I'll give you a little link to where that is.
Great.
Any other questions?
Let's see. Leslie is wondering when the Aloha High School pool will open for water aerobics.
Aloha High School isn't one of our pools.
Or the pool right next to it. The Aloha Swim Center.
We have the Conestoga Swim Center. Are you thinking of that one?
No, I'm thinking about the one on Kinnaman. I think she's talking about the one on Kinnaman.
You're right. Sorry.
Yeah,
okay.
That
one is still closed as well. Yes, and that one in Harmon, we don't have a timeline for those yet.
Okay. Great. Thank you so much, Tim. That was lots of great
Yeah.
information.
Great. Yes, lots of
Fantastic.
questions. That's great.
Thank you again for being here.
Okay. And I'll
All
add
right.
some information in the chat here in just a moment.
Perfect. Thank you.
All right.
All right. We've got Cassandra from TVF&R up next.
Well, thank you so much. I'm Cassandra Ulvin with Tualatin Valley Fire and Rescue. I'm a chief officer, and we're breathing a collective sigh of relief to be having the rains and to emerge without as much fire risk in the area. So that's great. We are seeing some home heating equipment fires, as you can guess, with the weather changing. So just be sure to give space heaters space and keep things clear of your fireplace and things like that to prevent some of those things. And if you have a wood burning fireplace, make sure to get your chimney inspected and potentially cleaned each year. And then finally, I wanted to give the group information on about October 18th, your ballots will arrive, and we have a bond measure on the ballot. So I wanted to just give you some information and offer the opportunity to ask questions. The last time we had a bond on the ballot, it was 2006. We've had levies since then, but this is a proposal basically to be authorized for us to sell some bonds. And if voters were to approve those bonds, that would enable us to purchase apparatus when they reach the end of their usable life. It would allow us to make renovations and safety and security upgrades at 10 of 29 of our stations. We would rebuild or relocate a couple of our stations, including one that would potentially serve part of CPO 6. Currently, Station 62 is off 209th and Blanton, and we'll move that a little bit closer towards Beaverton. And then it'll also allow for us to do some safety upgrades and prop improvements and training classroom improvements at our training center, where we train and equip all of our firefighters and paramedics. And then lastly, to do some land purchases in areas where we know growth will occur. So because we are retiring debt from previous bonds, this is a cost neutral proposition. Basically, as we get rid of the old debt, then we would sell new bonds if voters authorized us to do that. So it will not be an increase, but if it does not pass, your taxes will go down. And we will not do the projects or make purchases or either delay significantly or not do them at all. So I just wanted to make sure that everyone had the chance to ask questions, and really grateful for the time this evening.
Great, thank you. Does anybody have any questions for Cassandra? Nope.
I love it. I love it. I didn't get so much of the parks. I love all the great information. So really quickly, I would like to say thank you for the sheriff's office. That campaign that they're doing, that they shared with you, is extremely powerful, and we really appreciate it on the emergency medical side. So thank you.
Great. And yes, appreciation for TVF&R coming through on our chat box. So thank you so much for being here and for everything you all are doing. Really appreciate it. And that bond sounds like lots of stuff that you can do with that. So that's great. All right. Thank you so much. All right. So we are going to move on to, we're actually going to put the Tualatin Valley Water District video update to the end of our meeting tonight. It's a little bit longer than originally planned, which is great. I love more info, but we want to be able to hand it over to David Gassaway from Emergency Management to tell us a little bit about how to be prepared for an emergency. So David, if you're ready.
And I am ready. So good evening. I'm David Gassaway. I'm an emergency management coordinator with Washington County. So tonight I'm going to, in about 20 minutes or less, kind of whip through Emergency Preparedness 101. And all the topics that I'm going to be discussing, I could spend an hour on easily. So anyway, much more to come, and I'll put my contact information in the chat when I'm done but if one of the moderators could let me know when questions come up, that'd be great. So anyway, I'm just going to talk a little bit about family preparedness. So Washington County, when we look at preparedness, we got to first ask, what are we preparing for? So tonight I'm going to focus on kind of mostly natural hazards and preparedness. Certainly recognizing that cybersecurity and cyber attacks can cause issues and disasters. But anyway, if we look back at the last 10 years, we got our winter weather, we got our ice storms, our windstorms. We occasionally get a little flooding, but it's been a long, long time since we've had a major flood. And most of the really bad floods have been contained to kind of the Tualatin River. But along with floods and rain comes landslides. Then, of course, a year ago, we had wildfires, which we actually hadn't seen to that magnitude in many years, but they're absolutely a hazard for us. We've got a number of locations around the county that store fairly significant quantities of hazardous materials. And then kind of new for the summer, because I've lived in Oregon for about 50 years now, was extreme heat waves. And we've never seen that. And then, of course, with the pandemic over the last year and a half, infectious disease is certainly a big, big hazard. So, we start thinking about preparedness, think about, what are we preparing for and what are the hazards in our community, in our neighborhood, in our state. And then, of course, we are very susceptible to earthquakes. So we have some small earthquake faults in the Portland metro area and in Washington County, but we also have an enormous threat from the Cascadia earthquake fault, which runs basically from southern British Columbia all the way down to Northern California. And it hasn't actually gone off in a long, long time. So it last went off actually in 1700 in January, and we know this because of geologic records and some studies that were done about 15 or 20 years ago on the coast, which showed basically an entire forest had dropped all of a sudden. They did lots of studies, and then they looked at records in Japan, which takes or keeps very careful records on tsunamis. And they cross-referenced stuff and figured out that an enormous earthquake had happened on January 26th of 1700. So, scientists are debating how often these earthquakes occur. So one figure I pulled up was, every 246 years. So we're now at 321 years. So, what does that mean? And the debates go on about how often these occur and when we're due next, but there is a very common consensus that we are due, whether it's in the next 50 years, whether in the next 5 years, or maybe take another 100 years. We simply don't know. So a lot of this big earthquake got a lot of attention a few years ago when the New Yorker published a big article called The Really Big One, which went into depth about all the different impacts of an earthquake, and especially the impacts to our infrastructure. In other words, our roads, our electrical systems, natural gas, our internet systems, and how when this earthquake goes off, it's not going to be something that we recover from in a week or a couple of weeks, but it may be years for us to recover. So within Washington County, and I know this map is a little bit hard to see, but what this map is showing us are the predictions for how hard the ground will shake after.
David?
Yep.
I'm not seeing a map.
Oh, you're not? Uh-oh.
Yeah. Are you able to share your screen?
Yeah, let me,
Okay.
my apologies.
That's okay.
So I think I'm sharing my screen. That's
Hmm.
You might be sharing the wrong screen if
I
you
might
got
be.
monitors.
Yeah. Okay. Can you see it now?
No.
Uh-oh.
Is anyone else able to see it? No? Okay.
Okay. Well, let me try to do this one more time.
There we go. I think
There
you
we
got
go.
it.
All right.
Yeah.
So,
Great.
all right. So can you
Well,
still
we
see
can
it?
see. Yeah, there we go.
All right.
Perfect.
So my apologies.
Thanks. That's okay.
All right. So anyway, we've got a very busy map here. And what the Oregon Department of Geology and Mineral Industries did at the state level is that they did this huge study to figure out how hard the ground would be shaking if this Cascadia subduction zone earthquake went off. And really what it comes down to is that it's going to be shaking pretty darn hard. And it's not going to be shaking for just 30 seconds, but this could be for like 3 or 4 minutes. It could be longer. We don't really know. And so there's actually a little star there. And that's where I kind of cross where CPO 6 is. So it's really, indicates either very strong or severe shaking. And here's a little bit of a closer shot. But, really what we're getting at is an event like this, really as the extreme, and I don't want to scare people off from being prepared just for this because we've got a lot of other hazards that we face. They might be the typical winter storm that we get in the Portland area where it gets icy, the roads get messed up, things are miserable for, maybe it's an evening, maybe it's a couple of days, but then we recover and we go on. And there's some great things we can do to prepare for that. But I would encourage people to also think about the very large Cascadia subduction earthquake. So I mentioned kind of all sorts of impacts, and there have been estimates about how long it will really take the Portland area to truly recover its systems after big earthquakes. So, water and sewer, it might take more than a year. It's predicted that electricity and natural gas, it'll take less than a year because they have some very resilient systems. But healthcare facilities are going to be in bad shape and perhaps for multiple years. So what can we do about all this? Well, one of the things we look at is to see what can we do to minimize the damage that actually occurs. With Washington County, a couple of years ago, we did some major projects to retrofit our law enforcement center, as well as our public services building, to make sure that they don't collapse after a large earthquake. Now, there may still be a big mess inside, but we'll still be able to clean up the mess pretty quickly and start using those facilities again. Another example of what we can do for this kind of mitigation is actually at the household level. So this actually, for full disclosure, can be a little bit of an expensive project, but one of the dangers after earthquakes is first of all, in the Pacific Northwest, with a lot of our homes made out of wood, we don't expect homes to collapse. We expect them to shake very hard. We expect them to be a big mess. But one of the things we've got to watch out for are these homes sliding off their foundations. So we can, or homeowners can, it's usually working with an engineer or a contractor, and it can actually put in plates which attach the frame of their homes to the foundation, bolt them down, and prevent homes from sliding off their foundations. So this earthquake happens. one of the things we want to be very transparent about is that our 911 centers, law enforcement, fire, EMS are going to be overwhelmed, and they're unlikely to get to many calls. And they'll be very, very busy. They'll be focusing on prioritizing kind of the worst hit areas. And then, yes, we can make a call to the state, who can then call the federal government, and we can get lots of resources in, but that's going to take time. So from the context of your own household, I'd ask that you consider a few questions, within your household, your extended family, your neighbors around you, your pets, if you're at work, your coworkers, who's dependent upon you, and to what level, and how independent are they? And do you see yourself as being in a position to wanting to provide help, or do you think you're going to need help? So, and then, this is kind of where we encourage people to start thinking about this, again, not just from the huge earthquake perspective, but the more kind of routine disasters. Is, how vulnerable are you? Do you live on a steep slope home, which have more tendency to the slopes to slide? Do you live in or near a creek or near the Tualatin River where it may be flooding? What other factors kind of contribute to your own exposure to disasters? And then all this kind of factors into maybe your risk to the disasters themselves. So here's kind of some fundamental principles that we ask people to consider. One is get to know your neighbor, because we find that communities that spring back from disasters the quickest are the ones that have the most social cohesion. In other words, I know my neighbors. I know, some of my neighbors may be excellent people at doing barbecue. Others have chainsaws. Others have other skills, but also, I understand which of my neighbors are perhaps in a wheelchair and may need additional help. Who's vulnerable in my neighborhood? Who are the resources in my neighborhood? And what skills and talents can they bring when things go bad? There's actually a federal program called Map Your Neighborhood, which has some guidance on helping people kind of fill out or do an analysis of their neighborhood. But it really comes down to getting contacts for your neighbors, figuring out who has what skills and so forth. And then another really key thing is to sit down with your family, your friends, and make a plan. So if the wildfires once again come, have a preconceived notion of how you're going to get out of your area. If the telephones, the internet goes down, how are you going to communicate with your loved ones? Perhaps I'm at work and my family is 16 miles away. How am I going to contact them to figure out if they're okay? As well as if all the communication systems go down, where are we going to go meet up? Or who can we call that's out of state? Because often we find either the long distance service is working better than the local cell phones. And who can we call out of state just to check in to make sure everyone's okay? We encourage people to think about putting together a disaster supply kit. And this might just start with a backpack in your car. Thinking about this routine winter weather, it gets icy, traffic gets nasty at times, and sometimes we're just stuck out there. Do we have some extra snacks, some water? Do we have a flashlight? Do we have some extra clothes to keep warm? and some other things. And then kind of, if you start small and then think about your home, we actually recommend a gallon per person per day. And we'd love to see everyone prepare for at least 3 days, but we also acknowledge that after a huge earthquake, it's going to take a lot longer for significant assistance to arrive. So we ask people to target like 2 weeks. And we know that's a lot. So we do ask people, start small, but start somewhere. And some, really key things. I mentioned water, but extra food, especially if you've got some special dietary needs. If the electrical system's out and telecommunication system's out, then the credit card systems aren't going to be working. The internet's not going to be working. So think about keeping some extra cash on hand, but also know where your important documents are. Your insurance papers, critical family documents. Know where they are, so if you need to get them out of the house, you can do that. For those of us who are, need medications, think about having an extra supply of medication on hand. And then, by the way, there's a regional consortium called the Regional Water Providers Consortium, which maintains a great website, which is the bottom of the slide, called regionalh2o.org, which tells all about storing water and how to purify it and so forth. They're a great resource. So a few other things to consider for a disaster kit, extra clothing, socks, shoes, because unfortunately we find that disasters are messy. So we would hate for people to be hurt as they're walking around. And I would also throw in a good pair of work gloves into that. A first aid kit, and it could be something you pick up at Target. It could be more involved in that. Also, we encourage people to learn how to actually conduct some basic first aid procedures, learn CPR. Our radio. The way that our kind of emergency communications system is set up to keep the Portland or the public informed is really based on the commercial radio systems, where key messages will be sent out to those commercial radio systems, and they'll broadcast that. So, a battery operated or a crank radio is great. Have extra toiletries on hand. I think of a year and a half ago when the pandemic hit, and then for all of a sudden, Winco was out of toilet paper. So, and that wasn't even a disaster that's really impacted any structures. Any other tools and supplies that you need? Let's say a wrench to shut off your gas main at your house is always great. And then, of course, flashlights and lots of extra batteries. So another thing we really encourage people to do is to stay informed. The region has a really marvelous website. It's called publicalerts.org. It's almost one-stop shopping for a lot of things related to emergencies. So people can go there, they can sign up for public alerts to be either texted to them or emailed to them or phone calls made to them. There's a running list of Twitter feeds in which emergency agencies are posting, and we consolidate them there. There's lots of preparedness information. The Weather Service has a great system using their NOAA weather radios. And then we also get an awful lot of information what's happening, like just through social media and Twitter and so forth. And all the public safety agencies maintain Twitter accounts and Facebook. So don't forget to look at those social media channels after disaster hits for guidance and what's going on. So we absolutely encourage people to get trained. And so there's some great programs out there. Hillsborough has a great community emergency response team, which is a large group of volunteers that are trained in post-disaster skills. They also help out with a lot of community events. The county sponsors a great program. It's actually a national program called Listos. For those who are Spanish speaking, the content is in Spanish and it's culturally appropriate. And I can, if anyone's interested, I can put a contact in the chat about that. Again, really encourage everyone to get trained in first aid and CPR. The Red Cross offers some great classes. I'm sure there's other providers of classes. And then kind of the last big pillar I ask people to consider is financial preparedness. And that includes reviewing your insurance policies so you really understand what they cover and what they don't cover. So most homeowners insurance doesn't cover earthquakes. Most homeowners insurance doesn't cover flooding. So we're often need that if we feel like we're vulnerable to those hazards, that we talk to our insurance company and we get some additional insurance to address those hazards. And I realize that when times are tough, people have a hard time building up a rainy day fund. But one of my pieces of advice is to if you are able to consider building up a savings account so that and keeping some cash on hand so that if things go bad, you still have some money to get the resources you need. And then the Federal Emergency Management Agency maintains a great website called ready.gov. I encourage you to go to. And so that is it as far as my slides. And let me stop the presentation so I can take a look at the chat.
Great. So people are requesting the links to the websites that you have talked about. So I've got a couple of them in there, but I didn't get the earlier ones.
Okay, so I'll go through and I will put those in the chat.
Great.
Again, we can talk about a lot of those topics for an hour or two. So
yeah.
Anyway, I would.
Great. So Douglas is asking, can we get the entire slides?
Sure.
Are they posted somewhere? Douglas, so we are recording this meeting and it's going to go up on YouTube, and I can email you. When I email you, I can email you a link to that, and then you can go through and watch all the slides again. And we will try to get a copy. David, can you send me like a file?
Yeah.
And then I will, the only place that I personally can put it is on Facebook, and I know a lot of people don't use Facebook, but I can also email those to you as well. So just let me know. And Douglas, just know that I'm going to send you the whole package. So if anybody else would like that, email us at cpo6leaders@gmail.com. Great. Any other questions for David?
Yes, I got one actually. Hey, thanks, David. You kind of mentioned, earthquake mitigation with your residential facility, your foundation. I'm curious, is there a list of qualified vendors or contractors that can do that sort of work for residential homes? That, it seems like it might be kind of hard to find a qualified contractor that can do that. So I don't know.
That is a great question. Let me do a little bit of research, and I suspect that there is a list because you're right. For why I understand of the process, it takes someone knowledgeable to understand, what's really needed, and then depending on the circumstances of one's home,
Right.
then implementing the solutions, whether those plates that get bolted to the foundation and then your frame gets screwed in. And by the way, there's lots of little things you can do inside your home. So you go to you Google about any earthquake, like Tohoku in Japan or wherever, and often the videos are taken inside stores and so forth, and you see everything crashing down. And I think that's kind of what we're going to be faced with initially is not just the structural damage, but everything's a mess.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so let me do a little research, and I'll
Yeah, great.
try to share the link.
Well, yeah, I think there would be, I've never looked to see if, I know there's people that do it. I don't know who they are, but it'd be nice to get some list of qualified contractors that can do that. So.
Yeah, there's another question about where to get a grab and go kit.
So let's see. I've seen them. I've seen them different places. I've seen them at Target. Probably Costco has had something. I would say that they're also pretty easy to put together. Like get a duffel bag, a small backpack, and you can fit quite a bit of things in there.
Yes, I've seen some on Amazon. Somebody's mentioning Amazon. I was actually able to purchase like the red bag that has, it's a 2-person kit that has the blankets and the food and the water and all of that good stuff in it. So I did that for Christmas for my oldest child who doesn't live with me anymore. So I have no control over their safety.
So, do think about getting additional food. And my family, we have a closet that contains some of our disaster food, and then every few months we rotate that out. A lot of it's canned food, but you can go to outdoor stores. I'm sure Amazon, REI, Winco. A lot of other stores have freeze-dried food, which is lighter, has a longer shelf life. But do think about rotating your water out on a regular basis, as well as the kind of the semi-perishable food.
Right. And it sounds like it's pretty important to make connections with your neighbors.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Great. Oh, and then Steve is saying that the American Red Cross also sells them. So great info.
So Dave,
Thanks,
I know
David.
it's hard to forecast, but what's the magnitude of earthquake you're saying for this area? Is it like a 5 or?
Well, so
Depends on the soils, right?
So the Cascade subduction zone earthquake, with the fault is roughly 60 miles off the coast. And by the way, Washington County is not susceptible to tsunamis. So we don't have to worry about the tsunami here, but absolutely the coast does. So if it shakes at roughly 9.0 on the coast, it's probably going to be in the 7 to 8 range here, which is still shaking pretty violently. But it's also, we expect it to shake for 3 or 4 minutes.
Do you have any specific information on the Cooper Mountain area and liquefaction?
I don't, but and
Are we all going to come sliding down the hill?
yeah. So I I can find the link, but I'm going to go to the GAMI site and see if I can find the link to those earthquake maps. So I would say the caveat about those maps is that this is an imprecise science. There also have been, other studies that have been done on historical landslides, and where we found historical landslides, there's typically an increased chance of landsliding again in that same spot. So I don't have specific information for you, and I would also take some of these maps with a little bit of a grain of salt, as far as trying to pinpoint your residents in regards to kind of the colors that they lay over the maps.
Great. Thank you so much. And can you post a link to the emergency management page on the Washington County website?
Sure.
And then people can check that out too. Are we in this area, are we susceptible to the Portland quake also?
So yes, and that that's kind of a whole nother talk, but so the Portland area has a number of faults. One of them goes along the ridge of the Portland West Hills, and so it's a little bit different beast, where it's going to shake very hard, but for a much shorter time than the Cascadia subduction zone earthquake. So it will still cause a lot of damage. And there have been some studies about that fault as well, and how far west the destructive impacts will extend into Washington County.
Whew. All right. Any other questions for David?
So, and if I can't get them to you tonight, then I will get them to Marcus or one of the other CPO 6 leaders, and get some help distributed.
Yeah, and you can just send it to cpo6leaders@gmail.com also.
Okay.
And then, yeah, I'd be happy to send that out to anybody who wants a copy of the slide presentation. Just email us at cpo6leaders@gmail.com, and we will get that out to you. Yeah.
Okay, will do.
Perfect. Thank you so much, David. That was great information.
You're welcome.
Appreciate it.
Thanks.
All right. We are going to move on to I know it's almost 8 o'clock, and I really like to be on time here. Before I move on to the video that we have, the video is an update from about the water project that's happening on 209th and Farmington Road. So it's about a 20-minute video, or maybe it's like 15 actually. I think they cut it down a little bit. We're going to get a bigger update about that project in probably January or February. So this is just a little bit of information that they wanted to share with us now. So I'm going to play that in just a few minutes for anybody that wants to stay to watch that. But I do want to take a few minutes to ask if anybody has any general questions that you wanted to ask, or anything that you wanted to share tonight before I start the video, just in case people have to leave. So if you do have something that you would like to ask or share, is the water video on the Facebook page or elsewhere? It's not right now, but I will put it on the Facebook page, and it will also be included in this meeting recording that we're going to put on YouTube. So you'll be able to watch that. Great. Okay, so if I don't see any other questions about that, so I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Let's see, where do I have it here? There it is. Oh, I don't think that's the one. Hang on here. Sorry.
I think you're close.
Still. Not the best at this, but you can tell how my brain works by seeing how many tabs I have open, huh? All right, let's see. I'll try again.
It says you're sharing the screen, but there's nothing showing.
Yeah, I think I'm not sharing the right screen.
Right.
I had it up, but then it kind of disappeared. So let me try this again. Stop share. Sorry, everyone. Here we go. Huh. Still not showing for me, but I'm going to do it this way. So you all can see my email inbox here. There we go. Can you see this and hear it?
No, it's
No?
still got a black screen.
Know what's going on here.
How many monitors do you have? Oh,
I only have one. I'm just
Oh,
using my
okay.
one here.
Hmm.
Not sure why it's not showing the right screen. It's popping up for me, but I'm not sure why it's not showing up for everyone else. Let's see.
Yeah, it was just showing a message that you were sharing the screen, but not actually sharing the screen.
Huh.
Yeah.
Do you want to just make the video available? Like, is it a
Yeah.
YouTube link or something that you could just send? Because
Yep.
that might be easier.
That is a fantastic idea. And yes, let me go grab that link really quick, and then I'll just share it in the box here, in the chat box. All right. Here we go. Okay. There we go. All right, so I put it into the chat. Can everybody see that link?
Yes, it's there.
Okay. Okay. Are you able to hear anything? Okay, great. So yeah, we're gonna go ahead and just you can just go ahead and watch it offline on your own time. And that way we don't have to go long. So let's see. Okay. All right. We're all good? Everybody has that? And we're good. Yes,
Yeah,
I accidentally stopped the recording. I started it again, but we're kind of through all the important information here. So thank you, everybody. Remember, email us if you'd like us to send you any of the links or the information. I'll have an email going out as soon as I get those slides from David. I will send those along via email to those who have already sent me their email addresses. Ken, do you have anything?
no, that's great. Thanks.
All right. Good seeing everyone tonight. Thank you, everybody who was here. Thank you, visitors. Please come back next month.
Right.
And yeah,
We'll be
great.
here.
Yeah, we'll be posting this. I'll be posting this link to the recording on our Facebook page. But for those of you who don't use Facebook, again, just email me and I can send you a link to the meeting recording on YouTube. So great. All right, everybody have a great night.
Thank you, Becky.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye-bye.